I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up. With us today is one of the candidates for the Nantucket Islands Land Bank Commission, John Stackpole. John, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. You're an incumbent. You're the incumbent in this
yes.
race.
Correct.
How long have you been on the land bank?
I've been on around 2.5 terms, so probably 13 years, 14 years.
What about it do you find the most satisfying?
Well, I think it's satisfying to look at some of the properties that we've acquired, and I originally went on when I went on a dozen years ago because I could see some of the properties dissolving and people not being able to use the areas that I used to go to as a kid. I'm a native, and I remember as a kid going a lot of different places that we can't go to anymore. And when I had this opportunity to go on, I just felt, maybe I can help show some of the areas that we used to use, and maybe we can pick up some properties, and my grandkids and their kids will be able to use it down the road. We have to look into the future to keep Nantucket as viable as it is now.
One of the things that I've discussed with both the other candidates is the question of should essentially the principal mission of the land bank remain at this point the acquisition of open space. I know you've branched off into other things, but should given the fact that 50% of the island is in conservation hands now, either the land bank or the Conservation Foundation or some other organizations, is it viable really to continue with that as the principal mission?
Well, I think that every time there's a property that becomes available, we have to look at each individual property. In some cases, it's great for open space, or a portion of it for open space. I think if we were hobbled into saying we have to have X amount of open space, X amount of recreation, that type of a scenario, I think it would be difficult for us. That's great for the CPC who has money coming in and they spend it in different areas. But when we have a piece of property become available to us, we have to look at it and say, is it viable? We've looked at lots of properties and said, this really should be developed. It's not something that fits into what we own. It's not something that really fits into the character of the island for the future. It's a great spot to be developed, so we decline. So I don't think we can be hobbled to exactly what we need to do. We just, for example, land property on Wellwinnet Road that became available to us. That's basically going to be an open space, a few parking areas, and a great view of Pulpus Harbor, which we don't have from many other areas. And pick up another piece of property. It might be good for parking as ancillary to property we already own. So we have to do it on an individual basis. And going forward, there are not that many properties available. And we do have a lot of management of properties to be ongoing. We have to rebuild, and we're doing it with CPC money, the Sconset Golf Course property. It's a beautiful old building, and it's going to cost a lot of money to save, and we'll put some in. CPC will put some in, and golf course, Myakama Golf Course needs a clubhouse. That was built in the 70s. It was built for a 9-hole golf course. We have an 18, and we have thousands of people playing versus a couple of hundred. So we have to look in that kind of venue.
How do you think the clubhouse at Myakama should be paid for?
I think it should be paid for by partially by dues of the members, partially by income from public that are playing out there, because it's a mix and match. And the land bank has put in $1 million, which is probably maybe 10%, maybe more of what it's going to cost overall. But I think the rest should come from membership and from public costs of playing out there. That's what it's going to be for.
Other recreational facilities, are there any sort of on the horizon?
Well, we're actually working on a dog park, which you might as well call it recreation. It's something I think that's needed. It's something that's happening around the state and other areas, and it's been talked up by a lot of people who need a place to take their animals. And
doesn't the Tuppence Links, which of course is not your property, it's a Conservation Foundation property.
I think they're looking for an area that can be segregated, so you can have some for large animals, some for smaller animals, and so they can just run. And we've just had a lot of people asking about it. We've had people offer to donate toward it. So I think it's going to be something nice, and we're working on that right now.
What about something like Petrel Landing? there's been some talk, I mean, in some of the circles I operate in, that
Right.
the land bank's a little slow in moving forward on that. And
Well, actually, we have been moving on it for years, and it takes a long time for permitting. We're trying to talk to the neighbors to see what they like and what they don't like. We obviously need a place where our local fishermen can load and offload their boats, and we're not looking for a cutesy place. We don't need some more Disney World type of areas. We need to have a little
functional,
working,
functional,
functional area that can still be a picnic area for people, because it's not going to be a functional area where boats are tied up full time. We like the scallopers or the guys that go cohogging or the guys that want to go bluefishing can come in, pick up their equipment, go off, come back, bring their catch in, and not tie the whole area, but yet have a nice little picnic area too, so people can enjoy the waterfront. And that is, it's going along pretty well. We're in the permitting stage. As soon as we can get those permits done, then we're going to start construction.
what about the wood property in Matticat? That was in the hands of the town for
Correct.
a long time and is now in the process of, I'm not exactly sure where it is in the process of being moved over to
The legislature has approved the town turning it over to us. The town has not done that yet because we're still in negotiations with them as to how it's going to be used. That's one of my pet projects. I've always pushed hard for the last decade for us to be able to put some money into that because nobody else has any money for it. It's underutilized. It would be a great spot for some walking trails and maybe 25% of it used for people to go to the beach, moor their boats out front, have a parking area. It's an absolutely beautiful piece of property that, as I said, it's underutilized, and I think that the land bank has a reputation for taking good care of their properties, and I think we can do a beautiful job with that. I think people will be very, very happy with it.
The wood property is, for those who don't know, is out at the end of Warren's Landing Road, where sort of the corner of Warren's Landing Road and where the
Correct.
Eel Point Road
Yeah.
starts at the west end.
Yeah.
And it's what, 50 acres?
I think it's less than that. But it's a large acreage. And like I said, originally was turned over to the conservation, but they've had no money to do any work on it. It's been used for years by people to moor their boats and to park their vehicles, but kind of in a haphazard area. And it needs to be defined for parking and for recreation and for walking trails and so on.
And there's also a very useful drainage area in there that's sort of been allowed to
Right.
go to pot and
Yes,
clog
correct.
up.
Yeah, it needs a lot of work, and we're in a position where we could do that.
So what do you consider your significant accomplishments as a land bank commission member?
Well, I think that the commission has always worked together as a team, and I think it helps to be able to work with the other members of the commission to define what we want to do with properties, to decide whether we really want to buy them or not. We generally try to come up with unanimous decisions. It doesn't always happen. That's why we have a commission. But I say 90% of the time we decide what we want. We go to our staff. We're really fortunate to have a terrific staff. They're dedicated. They work very hard. They give us a lot of good advice, and we try to follow it when we can. And I think my accomplishments, I really pushed hard to do this Mariah Mitchell deal on Washington Street and to buy properties on Washington Street. I brought the Lamb property on Walnut Road forward for the commission to buy, and
You know that
There's been
Brian
numerous-
Mitchell has put that project on hold.
I know that. But that's funding, it's a funding thing,
Yeah. I think,
and
exactly.
I think they'll find a way to do it because it's a great project for the island. So overall, I think that Land Bank's done a great job.
What about the whole beach access issue? Is there a lot more you can do than the land bank can do in that?
I think there is. I mean, I think there are a few small areas here and there that are going to come up for sale. We know of a large parcel that would be great to own and to enhance our beach areas. I can't bring up particular
Right,
areas
right.
because that makes the price go up, obviously. But we have quite a few pieces of property in the works right now. Some we're negotiating on. Some we're just sitting back waiting to see what's going to happen because there hasn't been a real quick drive to jump on them, and nobody seems to be trying to buy them for development. But
I was just talking to one of one of your competitors in the race about this whole issue of these deed restrictions for conservation, such as was on the UMass Field Station property and was on the Boy Scout camp property,
Right.
Which expire, unlike a conservation restriction, expire after 30 years. Those sort of came as a shock to the community, both of those.
Very much so.
Are there others of those around that you know? Is it worth spending a little time and effort to find out if they're...
I think it probably would be worth the time and effort. I don't know of any, but then we didn't know about those.
Right.
And they did come as a shock. It's just unimaginable to me for that to happen the way it did. And it's nobody's fault. It's just the way it was set up. And as time progressed, different people became involved in the different organizations, and it just fell by the wayside. And to have, when I was a kid, I used to go to the Boy Scout camp. I was a troop leader in Troop 95, and we used to use that as it's used now. It's a wonderful piece of property. To have that deed restriction expire and have people try to develop it, I think it's very sad. And I think Nantucket has to step up to the plate and make sure it doesn't happen.
And it did step up to the plate in the case of the field station.
Yes.
Through the Conservation Foundation.
Correct. Yeah.
How do you see the relationship between the land bank and the other conservation organizations?
Well, I think we've shown that we really work well together. We were able to come up with the $7 million so that the Conservation Foundation could buy Norwood Trust. They put up...
Which is the property in the Alder Rock area.
Alder Rock area. There was an amount of money that had to come up to make that deal happen. We came up with it, and the foundation is financing the rest of it. They get the largest portion of it because they're putting the largest amount of money in, but
so
we came up with a
how does that work from a sort of property management standpoint going forward? If they have a piece of it and the land bank has a piece of it?
Well, we own contiguous places and lots of areas of the island, and in that particular area we owned what used to be the Sanguinetti property down off of Pulpus Road, and this was contiguous to it. So we took the areas that abutted our properties. It's going to enhance our properties. We'll be able to run our boardwalk and walkways through that area to tie into the Conservation Foundation. Another area another outfit that we worked with was the Sconset Trust. Because of them and because of the land bank, we were able to save the Sconset Golf Course. They took a large portion of it. They're going to have trails, and we've worked with them to develop the trails. And we have a great golf course out there, the 9-hole golf course, which we hope to keep just as it is now. I mean, it's just perfect.
No sand traps.
It's perfect the way it is. It's a nice little links course, and it's kind of funky, and it's just a lot of fun.
Actually, it has, one sand trap, 2 sand traps now?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate Mother Nature took the barn because we had hopes to rebuilding that, but that's gone by the wayside.
That's right.
So we are going to rebuild that clubhouse, though. It's an 1880s building.
Right. Any regrets about your tenure so far?
Not at all. I mean, it does take time, but it's been great. Met a lot of nice people. I feel that we've done a lot for the island. I think we've done a lot for our families. You know, not just the island itself, but my family, my kids, my grandchildren. They're able to enjoy beaches. They're able to enjoy going out beach plumbing, and just things that we used to do when we were kids. And it's been a great ride. I've enjoyed it very much.
Is it fair to say you don't believe in term limits?
That's a good question. At this point, no. But actually, I think this would be my last term. I'd be in my mid-70s when this term is over, if I'm lucky enough to be brought back in. And I doubt very much if I would run again. I think I think that's. I think three term limits because it's mine would be good.
Good. John Stackpole, thank you very much, and good luck
you.
in your race for
My
the
pleasure.
land bank.
Thank you very much.